I'm going to call this meeting, this May 24th school board meeting workshop to order, and let the record reflect that all board members are present. Mr. Walters is participating electronically from Virginia Beach. And at this point, if we could stand, Mr. Cole, please, and pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for the invocation. Lord, we ask that you be with us on this beautiful spring day, or should I say summer day, as we conduct the business of Powhatan County Public Schools. Please guide our deliberations so we may make the best decisions in the interest of the students, the staff, and the parents and citizens of Powhatan County. In your name we pray, amen. Amen. I have a motion for approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. And the first thing we have is a presentation. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First item is a homework committee report update. If you'll recall, at our last meeting, we brought you some proposed changes for homework guidelines as well as the homework policy. And we took those suggestions that a committee that had worked pretty hard all year on coming up with them out to the public to get feedback, and Ms. Lynch is here to kind of share some of that feedback and some changes that we're recommending as a result of that feedback. Ms. Lynch?
Good evening.
Good evening, Mike.
I think I'll be okay. A month ago, I brought you the process that the homework committee had followed to review our homework guidelines in our division, and then to research what was happening with other schools and movements across the country for homework, and then to bring back some recommendations. Those original recommendations are the first slide. Can you hear Mr. Walters? Which one is this? So let's review those original committee recommendations. We wanted to make sure that our homework policy, IKB, had a definition and purpose of homework included. We also wanted the word differentiation to appear and to be suggested that it be used when appropriate. For K through 5, we wanted the grading of homework to be based on completion instead of accuracy. And 6 through 12, the weighting of homework to be 15% or less. We wanted our time limit guidelines that we discussed in our committee meetings to be designated by grade level. We also wanted to speak to weekday and weekend assignments by grade level. And then we wanted to make sure that we touched on long-term projects. We put our recommendations out on the web for public comment after the last meeting. And there were announcements made, there were links in our school messenger to parents, and there was a division email that was sent to all of our staff. So we made a really good effort to try to reach everyone that was in our stakeholder base. We found that we had a very good response the day that I posted this, and we've had maybe a handful more since then. We had a 54 or 55% participation by parents and about 45% participation by staff. Across all of those responses, all of our schools were represented. And we can easily say that approximately 80% of the comments supported the proposed changes. Actually, it's probably even more because when you read them, some of them said, "Thank you so much, we've needed this." Some of them said, "Oh, okay, this is good, I have one suggestion." So we did have some suggestions that popped up. In those suggestions, we had some emerging themes. That long-term projects should be very specified as far as how they were graded. We touched on it before, but people wanted that spelled out a little better. They are summative in nature, and so they would like for them to be spelled out. They should be summative in their grading with tests and quizzes and other things like them instead of the homework category. We also had some things that were addressed with our homework time limits, that we should say that these were maximum amounts and not expectations, because a lot of people responded as if, is this the expected time every night? And it wasn't. It was make sure that this is the maximum time. We had a theme occurring that said counting secondary homework no more than 15% of the final grade should be more clearly communicated, and make sure you say that it's 15% or less instead of no more than, because again, people were afraid that would be the expectation instead of the maximum. A guideline for the time limit for the daily kindergarten homework was asked about several times. We had specified that it would simply be as appropriate, but we realized that parents would like that more spelled out. Then we, on the higher end, as far as age level, so we had kindergarten addressed, but we also had children that were in the upper grades and their parents addressing AP and dual enrollment and otherwise college classes, that we had specified 180 minutes or less for students taking one or more courses. So we have now put in 2 or more college classes, and we note that there are some cases, if a student is taking majority of classes that are college level, that this time limit could be exceeded occasionally. And also, it is very important for elementary reading time to occur every night, but we realize reading time could take up the entire recommended guideline limit, so we wanted to make that as something that should not be included in the daily time limit. Well, as you can tell, we did make those adjustments in our recommendations. And I'm going to ask Ms. Wilson to pull them up in just a minute. We would like your approval as requested, and let's look at them if you don't mind, Ms. Wilson. Well, we've got a very colorful document here. The red denotes all of the recommendations from the committee. And as you can see, they did a very thorough job. And again, I cannot compliment them enough for the work that they did over the entire school year. But those things that I've just highlighted in my presentation are in the green. Notice we said right there, when we talk about long-term projects or homework assignments that are considered summative in nature, then we added that one statement. Therefore, the grades for long-term projects should be included in grading categories that include summative items, which are tests and quizzes. If you'll scroll down some. Note that in secondary, the bullet that says secondary grades 6 through 12, we have reworded that and said that grading homework at the secondary level should not account should account only for 15% or less of a student's final grade. Scrolling down a little further, we have added a little phrase that says guidelines for appropriate time limits, which are maximum times and not expectations. The first bullet is kindergarten. We have taken or recommended to take out age-appropriate activities and put in 10 to 15 minutes, the same as first grade. The bullet that includes 180 minutes for students taking college classes then now has the word 2 in it, taking 2 or more college classes. And it should be noted that 180-minute limit may be exceeded occasionally when students take a majority of college classes for their course loads. The bullet right below there then adds that the nightly reading practice for elementary students is not included in the time limits. And of course, voluntary additional reading is always welcome. And I believe that's it. Any questions?
Mr. Chairman, I've got one comment question, I guess. Is, the 3-hour time limit for students taking two or more college classes. I'm a little concerned that, if we say they can do more than 3 hours on even occasionally. I understand it. I'm obviously involved with community college. I know what we're asking there, but at the same time, we're trying to treat these students as college students. But in college, they go to class, they go to a 3-hour class a week, or they go to, let's say they had taken 12 hours. That means they go to class 12 hours a week. They're expected to work 24 additional hours, and thereabouts would be 36 hours. Their students' problem is that they're not getting that off time. They're spending 6 or 7 hours a day in class. We can't, then for those ACA students, 2 or 3 of those classes could be college level classes. So they're spending 6 or 7 hours, then they're going to spend 3 hours more additional at night. Plus, a lot of these students are also involved in extracurricular activities, which we want them to do. I'm not going to vote against this policy, but I'm going to ask that we closely monitor next year and survey our students about how much homework they're getting, not only at the high school level, but across our grade levels, to see whether if we're staying somewhere close to this policy, and get some ideas about how students are handling this amount of work. We're going to challenge them. There's no doubt about that. The college is going to be challenging, but in college, like I say, you're not going to class 15 more hours a week like you are at the high school level. So, just my comments and my concerns.
If I could kind of respond to that, Mr. Chairman, Ms. Lynch and I had that same conversation,
Yes.
Pretty much verbatim. It was feedback that came out in the comments, mainly from teachers, and then we had additional comments and conversations with some of the AP teachers at the high school that wanted to have this flexibility. And I think what they were lumping in as homework was study time, and trying to encourage students to review things and do that type of thing. Ms. Lynch, I know, spoke to a couple of the teachers. I spoke to one of them, and we very clearly stated that, is that while this is a choice that a student takes multiple AP class or college level classes if they're dual enrollment courses, then, but we still need to be cognizant of the demands that are placed on a student, and also look at quality versus quantity of homework and making sure that it's high quality and that it's serving a purpose and isn't just reading a certain number of pages and expecting too much of those students. So I think we've sent the message to the AP teachers pretty clearly that this is something that is not open. They wanted it even more flexible, and we kind of limited it to this comment to make sure that that we are keeping in mind mind that our students have full and active lives, that we want them to be well-rounded students. So it is a balancing act.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Any other comments on the policy? Mr. Walters, any comments on that policy?
No, but I would follow Mr. Cole, and I think based on what we're doing here, we do have an obligation to go back next year and reevaluate this with some sort of a survey like was done on this occasion. I think that would be very important for us to take a look at. But it seems very valid on its face. I appreciate the clarification, Dr. Jones.
I guess I would add, it's been through this with my own kids, and it's tough, but it helps teach time management, and I think we have to do what we can to make sure that the kids going in and selecting advanced placement or global courses, got to make sure that their eyes are wide open to what the requirements are as much as we can up front, so that they know what they're signing up for. And it will be a good prep for what's coming in college. So I agree with all previous comments. Let's keep a good eye on it and see what happens this first year.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
your homework.
Oh, thank you.
All right, that brings us to public comment period. If there's any subjects that anybody wants to address the board, there's a 3-minute time limit per individual, 5 minutes per group. If you do wish to speak, please state your name and address for the record. Seeing no movement, I will close the public comment period. And that brings us to the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first item is to consider approval of the policy that we just were discussing, and that Ms. Lynch, again, did a great job in reviewing these guidelines and bringing them up to date with some current research and practice, and making sure that we are in line with what the expectations are, but also looking at what's reasonable for our students and their families. So we are looking for approval of this updated policy, IKB homework.
Okay, so looking for a motion for approval of policy IKB.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Thank you very much. The next item is, every year we do safety audits at our schools in accordance with Virginia Code, and the attached report includes an overview of some common strengths and common areas to address in these safety audits. This process is headed up by Katie Wojcicki. Russell Wilson assists her with that as well. But we are happy to answer any questions that you have. If there are any concerns, we would appreciate hearing them. This is something that we then take back to each of the safety committees at the building level. That includes the SRO, administrators, teachers, other professionals in the building. And we look at these, and then as part of next year, we'll look to be addressing whatever concerns there are. And it's just a great yearly process to go through to make sure that we don't have any blind spots, and that those things that may be blind spots we're addressing to make sure our schools are as safe as possible.
Any questions on the safety committee report?
I was just very impressed with how thorough it was. I mean, there were some pretty minute details that were pulled out, and thank you all for doing that. I feel like our schools are safe, and I guess one of the questions I had, and I'm not going to specify which one, but there was plexiglass in an exterior door. Is that, why would that, was it just, don't know?
Don't know how long it's been there, don't know how it got there, but once we realized it.
That's pretty thorough. What did you guys do? Go knock on each window and see if they were?
Actually, the vacancy at the school was one of them. No, actually, it was the
Assistant principal.
assistant principal, yeah.
Okay.
The shoe one, not shoe one.
Okay. Well, you guys did a great job. I was very impressed with all the details. And the ID badges that they said were provided by a vendor instead of our own system. I mean, is that common practice for vendors to provide ID tags to people?
It is, I think it's more with the yearbook companies.
Oh, I see.
The
It provides, what it does is, when you go into a building, I don't have my own one, Ms. Wojcicki does. But that's their typical
ID, and if you see that and recognize it, then you know that that's the person that belongs in the building.
Right.
Some of them are totally different from that. I mean, it could be a ID from any company that
Okay.
you wouldn't know. I mean, so if they're all the same, it makes it very easy to recognize that they're individuals.
I like that idea, and I don't know, do all school board members have those current ones?
ID badge?
Yeah.
No, I don't have.
I do.
ID badge.
Get one. I need a new one, mine's like 10 years old, it's all faded, somebody said, I can't even read your badge, and I'm like, oh, well.
Human Resources Department can get you a badge at any time. We can update your picture, or if you want to use an older picture for any reason.
I like that, can I use the 10-year-old picture and just have a new badge?
I will say one other thing on the safety audit that didn't come up in the audits, but I think is a positive for the safety in our schools, is that with us closing down the junior high school and moving students into the middle school, we're in essence gaining a school resource officer because we're going to keep the same number of school resource officers even though we have one less school. So I appreciate the support from the Sheriff's Department in maintaining our level of staffing in SROs, and that will allow us to be more visible at the elementary schools and to make sure that we have full coverage of our schools quickly if we ever need it. So not that we didn't have that previously, but it's just nice, a nice thing to have moving forward. So we appreciate the Sheriff's Department's willingness to keep that staffing level where it was.
I had one question, and I tried to find the answer to this myself, but I couldn't find any guidelines on it. In the case of fire alarms that are not a scheduled drill, so like if a student pulls a fire alarm, how does that have to be handled? I'm assuming it would have to be handled as a potential fire.
Yes.
And a full evacuation. But I couldn't find any Virginia state guidelines or rules about that.
Well, we teach our kids that anytime you hear the fire alarm, you proceed as if it's a real fire, and you follow what we do as part of our fire drills. That actually happened yesterday at the middle school. There was an inadvertent pulling of a fire alarm in pouring down rain, and everybody went outside and went through the fire drill process. Even though it was learned quickly that it was an accident, you still follow through. You don't take anything for granted.
That's my answer. I was looking for. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I don't see any comments about visitors checking in, or bus pickup, or drop off, so I'm assuming all those things are going pretty well. That's a great thing. I appreciate your thoroughness of this report.
Any other comments or questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I
Mr.
have
Walters.
a question. And let me start off by thanking everybody that participated in this, because I've done these before, and it's a lot of work. So I appreciate the effort that went into this. The question that I have is, do we do a similar sort of check on, these are our schools, do we do a similar sort of audit or check on the transportation facility and the school board building, more in line with the workplace safety sort of check for our employees to ensure that the workplace itself is safe for them, sprinklers, fire extinguishers, doors, that sort of thing?
We don't do as comprehensive of a check, Mr. Walters, certainly as we do in our schools and are required as code. We do have OSHA standards that we have to live up to in terms of sprinklers and fire extinguishers and those types of things. But it's probably something that we need to look at in terms of our buildings. I know last year at central office, we did do a fire drill and had an evacuation plan, which we had never, not since I had been there, done before. So that's probably a good idea for us to look at moving forward.
I agree. I think that is important. I'm glad that you did that last year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walters.
I just asked Dr. Jones, and I think he clarified that this whole document is not made public, only because there's some information in there that probably the public, like our safety procedures.
Yeah, this document that you're seeing is online, is public, but there's a lot more detail in our crisis manuals and those types of things that we do not make public because it could give somebody who wanted to do harm in one of our schools an advantage to know what our procedures are in reaction to that. So we do put this on here in the, for transparency and for everybody to see what we go through and do, but we do not give all the detailed reports because it would, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jones.
Thank you very much. Next item is, this is a declaration of surplus property and disposal of surplus items. There's a list here of surplus equipment, 8 school buses, 3 support vehicles. They need to be replaced due to age and mileage. And we have 3 trucks that are no longer needed and will not be replaced. So we're requesting that the school board declare these vehicles surplus so that we can go through the surplus process as specified in school board policy DN.
All right, so I have a motion for the declaration of surplus property.
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I will also add is that on June 14th, the next meeting, we'll be bringing another surplus list of you of a lot of equipment that is in the junior high school, kitchen equipment, other equipment that will be no longer needed as part of the move. So we'll be bringing another item to you on the 14th to surplus a lot of that equipment that we want to try and get as much value as we can before we demolish that building. Next item is at our last school board meeting on May 10th. This was an information item. We are working as part of a regional group on Code RBA High School with 12 other Region 1 school systems. I did have a Code RBA advisory meeting with some additional information last week that I received. The regional board will only meet 4 times a year. It won't be meeting monthly like our other regional schools, Maggie Walker and Appomattox do. So that might entice a volunteer. Like I said, it will just be 4 times, but this is a governing body for this exciting new regional school that will be opening this year, but the students will be staying in their home schools. Next year, if you remember from the presentation we do in 17-18, is when the school will open, and the board will be instrumental in starting that process and taking over for the group that's been working on it now. That first board meeting, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, first board meeting will probably be in August. I may have said in May 10th that it would be July, but they're going to now wait and do that in August.
Thank you, Dr. Jones. I have not received any volunteers for this position as of this date, so it looks like we're in for a selection process. Does anybody wish to serve in this capacity as a Code RBA Regional School Board representative?
I thought about it, and I think I'll be, I guess a lot depends on what days of the week it is, and I know that sounds a little detailed, but it makes a difference for me.
What was talked about at the advisory meeting is that since the school districts that are participating in this are also the school districts that are in Maggie Walker and ARG, but primarily Maggie Walker, because ARG also pulls from Region 3 some, is that they may do the meetings on Thursdays right after Maggie Walker. Because the school will be somewhere down in that area. We haven't finalized a location yet. But in the meantime, in this year of planning, at least that was the initial discussion that was floated around as part of the advisory council.
Well, gosh, that might work for me.
That narrows it down some.
That does. I currently serve on the Maggie Walker Policy Revision Committee, and if that were the case, then they would have to find someone else, but I think they can. I've done that for 4 or 5 years, and that takes me into 2 and 3 o'clock sometimes. So I'll be willing to take this on initially and be happy to do that. I do think it's a very exciting school proposition, and I'll be happy to do it.
Thank you, Ms. Ayers. Is there any other challengers for the role?
Make a motion to approve Ms. Ayers.
Is there a second?
I second the motion.
There we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
I appreciate it, Ms. Ayers.
Thank you, Ms. Ayers.
You're
I
welcome.
would be interested in, but I'd have to give up something else. And that's-
Okay.
It was a close race.
Well, I said I would start out doing it. You know, my life has changed a little bit, and I'll do my best, but we'll see what happens, but I will be happy to try.
Next item is to consider approval. The board will remember as part of its 15-16 operating budget that we created a capital maintenance line item in the amount of $201,429. We've been monitoring potential projects that could be accomplished as part of this maintenance line item, but wanted to wait until closer to the end of the year so that if there was something that was an emergency or a failure in equipment, that this money would be available for that. Mr. Wilson, Mr. Johns, myself, and the rest of the division leadership team have looked at several potential projects. Keeping in mind this is a capital maintenance line item, and the list that is attached here is what we have come up with as a recommendation. The amount is a little over the $201,000. Mr. Wilson does have funds in the operation and maintenance line item to cover that $4,000 or less than $4,000 difference. We tried to get to take care of some projects that would be necessary for our move next year, thus the parking lots here at Pocahontas Elementary, the improvements there, the work at the middle school for the parking lot. We also have projects at all of our other schools other than Flat Rock. Our newest school, there weren't really needs there that came to the forefront, but we felt like we had a good division to really take care of some needs that we wouldn't have typically been able to do. The biggest line item is the tennis courts at the high school. We did patch those this spring. We had to patch them for them to be playable, or our tennis teams wouldn't have been able to play any home matches. They had gotten into such a state of disrepair. So we are looking at getting those resurfaced. So we're looking for approval, and more than anything, make sure the board is aware of what projects will be accomplished as a result of this line item.
Any questions about the potential capital project list?
I did, Mr. Chairman. Could you be more specific, because I don't see the middle school listed there?
The middle school, we didn't do anything inside the building since it would only be used primarily, and some of the parking lots at Pocahontas Elementary, some of that is also going to be the bus loop in between the schools that I was thinking was middle school. We're going to be, remember, we're putting parking spaces in the middle of that bus loop. So we didn't do any projects at the middle school per se, just because with the uncertainty of what's going to happen there in 2 years, we didn't include projects there. What I was thinking more is making this area between the schools more usable for the faculty and staff that will be here when the schools are combined.
Okay, well, that's what I wanted to.
Yep,
make
no,
clear
good
that
question.
that's what you were,
Yep.
thinking. And is there going to be like a walkway between, or are they going to walk on the sidewalk all the way around the parking lot, or, what is the plan for that, or is that part of this?
No, there will be the sidewalk, the existing sidewalk will be used, since that area will be used as a parking lot for the students' safety. We will be directing them and escorting where appropriate students on that sidewalk that currently exists from the school around the bus loop over to the middle school.
And then on rain days, I guess we'll need to have them store their umbrellas or something, or keep umbrellas here, or raincoats, or
Yeah.
what
Well,
have you thought about?
Yeah. In my experience, when you have renovations like this, and it's typical for students to be outside, normally it's in trailers and be coming back and forth to the building. What we do is we ask students to bring umbrellas, to wear raincoats. I have seen where the schools purchase some extra umbrellas for students and have barrels, in between the two areas and do that as well. So we can look into doing that.
Okay, thank you.
The other question I have is, are these budget numbers and stuff to go out for bid, or are these bid numbers?
Mr. Wilson?
The one on the controls with air conditioning equipment sales, that's a proprietary. The board voted 15 years ago, all the buildings have the air conditioning equipment sales, automation in them. So that one, we got one vendor that does the Richmond area, so it's not a bid situation. The parking lots did go out for bid. That was to 3 W's, we don't know them. The sound system at the high school, we contacted 2 companies, and one company never did get back with a price, and CSI was the original installer for that building up
These are good numbers.
These are-
These are bid numbers that we can count.
there. Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, or Dr. Jones, where does painting come in? That's maintenance, that's not capital, that's maintenance, right?
Yeah, that's maintenance. We have money in operation and maintenance budget to do painting. There are things that we're doing as part of maintenance. There's some new carpet going in at Powhatan Elementary and at Pocahontas Elementary. So there's lots of things we're doing, redoing the carpet in this library that is rather old. And so there are lots of other things that are just maintenance that are in Russell's library.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions or comments on capital projects?
Did you say, talk about the intercom system yet? The PA system?
I did not, but
What is there a problem, or is it just needs to add to the extra classrooms, or?
It's twofold. It's, one, the system here is original equipment, so that makes it 20 years old. It's totally outdated from a technology standpoint. One of the questions with the 6th grade moving in over here, where they have the ability to isolate those rooms to do morning announcements without having to broadcast through the whole building, disrupt the elementaries, and vice versa. It can be done, but manually you've got to go back in, you've got to throw 10 switches or however many classrooms it was to do that. And again, that equipment is outdated from what is out there today. So we asked them to come in and give us a price to upgrade it. We would have a feature where this would be a simple flip of a switch to do those announcements. And we have a brand new system.
Thank you for the explanation.
Okay, so looking for a motion for approval of the potential capital projects.
I make a motion, we approve the potential capital projects.
Second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
thank you very much. The next item is on February 3rd, BCWH Architects presented at our joint meeting with the Board of Supervisors preliminary plans for the joint transportation facility. Now that that project has been approved and funded, we've asked BCWH to come back and present the final schematic drawings of that facility. They haven't changed a whole lot, but we wanted you to be able to see them and to get formal approval for us to move forward. Mr. Tilley, Charles Tilley, is here from BCWH. He's the project manager and a principal architect with BCWH. He can answer any questions, and I think also has some information to share with you about the facility and the timeline moving forward.
Good evening.
Yeah, I just want to give you a brief overview, kind of catch you back up. It's been a couple of months since we looked at this. This is so the existing bus garage is right here on the site. The big yellow box is what we're adding in terms of the new facility, so it's going to be constructed while the other building is still being occupied. The existing property line of the site is around this section here. The county, as you know, purchased this property to add to the site, to expand this area. Also, as part of the water tower project, have separated the site along this line, so the water tanks will be in this zone. And I think that's still in process of being put together. But the back half of that will all be a part of the bus garage site, environmental controls and those types of things. Along 13 here, you'll come in off of 2 entrances. There's a small parking lot up front for visitors and occasional parking here. On where the existing fueling area is, we're going to put a canopy over the top of that. And then building here. There will be a fence line across this area which will secure all of the back of the bus garage or the bus service areas. And there's 100 space parking for the buses in the back. And the existing storage building in the back will stay. And there's a small covered shed area that we're going to relocate off the building that's been demoed, the existing bus garage. We're going to move it to the back, storing small tools and those types of things. So essentially that's the site plan. The floor plan, this is Old Buckingham 13 here, is essentially three parts. There's a public, or the main office, public side, where all the director's office and some other staff are located. It's a small classroom for training for the bus drivers, for the maintenance folks. The facilities maintenance shop is over on the right-hand side, and they have a separate entrance coming off the right-hand side of the building. This middle zone is storage and shop offices and some of the other miscellaneous pieces and parts that support this facility. The back we have, this dark gray area is 6 enclosed maintenance bays. We've taken one of those bays and divided it into 3 smaller areas for the service blank. And in the back, we've extended the building with the same structure so that if in the future you want to add to the building, we could enclose that section of the building and it would be another 2 bays added to the overall facility. This is the overall view from Old Buckingham. You can see with the fueling canopy. It's a simple canopy. We're going to cover it with the same material, metal panels that we're going to cover the main building with. This is looking from the north. Same metal panels, sort of a tan color metal panels, kind of blends into the environment. We've also added some brick along the face so that we break up the front of the building as it moves along 13. And you can see that fence line separates the back. And this is the back side. You have the same structure that could be infilled in the future as part of expanding the building for more service. Any questions about the building so far? We've submitted the site plan to the county planning department for their approval, and we've gotten the first round of comments from them, and we're working through those right now to respond to various comments that they had. We hope to, in the next 45 to 60 days, to have approval on that and be ready to go out to bid sometime in July-August timeframe. And with construction taking 10 to 12 months, we're looking at a September 17 potential opening. All those pieces come together. So that's the plan.
The county's also working on transferring ownership of that land, the new property that was purchased, over to the school system. So that process is being done. There will be an easement for the water tower, the eventual water tower that will be there. But that property is working through that. And we have also met with the county, with Pat Weiler and her staff, on an MOU for how we will handle the billing and working with the county vehicles and administrative vehicles on the county side. And we'll bring that back to you and to the Board of Supervisors at our next joint meeting. So we can hammer out the details of that process that, I think is inherent in the joint usage of this facility.
I have a question. So, does this facility, does the water tower impact this opening of this facility or not?
Well, it depends on when that area's, when the water tower is actually functioning, but we've had some conversation with the building official with some interim steps that we can do to open this facility before that is completed. There are some things I think we talked about in that last meeting as well.
The feedback we've gotten from the fire marshal is that we will be able to open this building before the water tower is functional. We'll have to do some things that, are not substantial in terms of supervision and those types of things. But without having 1,000 students in this building, the concern is not as great. Now, that doesn't sound good for the employees that work there every day, but it looks like we'll be able to open this on time without waiting for the water tower to be operational.
And when are you starting again?
But we're anticipating we have this out to bid by the end of the summer. Start construction, of course.
And then it will take about a year?
Yes, ma'am.
Refresh my memory, what's the reasoning for the open bays in the back of the building?
The open section.
Yeah, slide 6.
There are some things that they do want to do outside. One of them was occasionally washing a bus in an area. They wash mostly outside right now. Or servicing some things outside. There's also a few things like waste oil and some other things we're going to store under that. So the ability to have some flexibility for the future, but also having a place to work on some things outside that you don't want to necessarily bring inside.
My point was, it's not just cost savings.
No, sir. No, it's really just another functionality piece of what they're doing here in the city.
Thank you.
So the footprint of this new building is on top of the existing building, or right side?
It's about 20 feet to the north.
Okay, because I was riding through there, the other day, looking at, trying to figure out, okay, how to do that. So it's going to, you're going to tear down the locker plant, basically.
Correct. Yes, sir.
To get it.
It's going to be tight between the two. There's enough room to do this. It's just going to have to, they're going to have to come in the south side of the fence area. It'll work.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, then I'm looking for a motion for approval of the schematic drawing for the transportation facility.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Tillman.
This does bring us up to some closed session agenda items. Mr. Cole's motion to take us into closed session.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I recommend we enter into closed session pursuant to Code 2.2-3711A1 to discuss the employment, resignation, and leave of specific employees. Pursuant to Code 22.1-60.1 to
Take
discuss.
that off. I'm sorry, that should be
So, start over again. Recommend we enter into closed session pursuant to Code 2.2-3711, A1 to discuss the employment, resignation, and leave of specific employees, and pursuant to Code 2.2-3711, A2 and A4 to discuss the expulsion and school placement of specific students, Codes 2.2-3711, A1, A2, and A4.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're in closed session until motion to come out of closed session.
Motion to come out of closed session?
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Cole, would you read the certification?
Whereas the Powhatan County School Board has convened a closed meeting on this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, whereas Section 2.2-3712D of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by this board that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now therefore be it resolved that the Powhatan County School Board hereby certifies to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements of Virginia law were discussed in the closed meeting to which this certification applies. And only public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, and considered.
Aye.
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 Okay. Thank you. This brings us to approval of our personnel docket. Can I have a motion for approval of the personnel docket and addendum?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved. This brings us to next steps and follow-up. Let's try to do our next steps, follow-up, and board comments in one round if we can. Mr. Walters, if you're ready, I'll start with you.
I'm ready. I have one, what I guess is the next step. Over the past several meetings, we've talked about some items that are potentially an agenda item for this compensation and benefits meeting that we've all agreed to later this year. I think it would be helpful if we could ask Karen or Larry or someone to put together a comprehensive list of what those are that we've discussed today, to give us a chance to think about them a little bit over the summer, perhaps ask for some additional information that the staff can pull together for us. That would be my next step and follow-up. The comments that I would have is, first, I'd like to thank Ms. Emil for agreeing to attend the Math Science Innovation Center board meeting with me on Thursday. I appreciate her doing that. I will not be back in contact at that point, and I certainly would want our board to be represented, so I thank her again. And also, I'd like to thank Jeff Durrett and Michelle Wilson for helping facilitate the Skype for this meeting. Thank you very much to both of you. That's what I have.
Thank you, Mr. Walters. Ms. Ayers?
Just to agree with what Joe said about the benefits and compensation, that maybe something that we should look at is some type of retirement incentive, a one-time, payout if someone wants to retire 2 years early. Just part of the consideration, just part of the workshop to see what that might hold. And that's all.
Thank you, Ms. Harris. Ms. Emil?
I had one. Got a couple of calls. I was wondering if you could consider taking out the word special in advertising of our second school board meeting of the month. People are wondering what the issue is and calling and saying like it's an emergency meeting. They're taking it as that because the word special's in it. So, they want to know what the pressing issue is, and I have to say it's a routine meeting. So is there any reason why we do
I
that?
think it's just to differentiate between our 7 o'clock meeting and our 5 o'clock meetings. We can just say meeting.
Or
Are we
workshop.
advertising?
Workshop.
It is a workshop, but I mean, just to say, or workshop/meeting, whatever.
Yeah.
But if we can take out the word special because they think there's a pressing issue and they're calling to find out what the pressing issue is, and I'm looking at the agenda and I didn't see anything that was really
Yeah,
outstanding.
it's just, we've done that just traditionally just to distinguish between the two. The reason we don't just call it a workshop is we usually call it a meeting when there are items that are being voted upon, so that people know that. So if it's just a workshop and there isn't anything voted, we can just call it a workshop. If it's both, then we can say workshop/meeting.
And just take out the word
Right.
special.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay,
That's-
thank you, I appreciate that.
Okay.
And then my one comment, I forgot to mention at the last, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine.
At the last meeting, and she's not here, that I attended the annual workshop for the gifted students and their parents. The topic was Daring Greatly, teaching our gifted students to take risks and embrace imperfection. And Mrs. Browning did a fabulous job as our guest speaker, one of our retired teachers, and I had forgotten to mention that last time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Emil. Mr. Cole?
Just a couple of comments. One is that graduation is going to be before we meet again. Just to remind everybody about that. So everybody's ready to go. And the other thing is whether we would want to consider a resolution of some sort in support of Francis and the board over there. And I don't know whether we officially should do anything or not. I just whether we go on record and say that we support property. I don't even know what we support, but I certainly feel like it's they've established a very what I think is it's a unique resource for this county, and maybe we want some kind of resolution that says we'd like to see it remain a public access resource of some sort. It's an educational benefit, it's historic, and all those things. I don't know that it would mean anything in the end, but it may make some people feel better about it because we have established some relationships with them, and I hate to see their hard work be wasted away and us to lose the access for the county and the whole of the school system too, to lose access to that wonderful site in terms of what it has to offer.
Can I just add, that I think that's a great idea. We had talked about this summer, working with them and getting a curriculum for the environment sciences as well as history, the Black history.
Yep.
And I'd still like us to go forward with that because, you know, hopefully this will all pan out, but I like your idea, Rick. I'd go for that. How do we do that?
Well, I'm talking to Dr. Jones, we'll see if we come up with some kind of resolution that's supporting them, and not saying, hey, we're not going to take it over by any means.
Right, but that we do want to use it. You know, we would love to go for field trips and access to it. Yeah, yes, absolutely. Love it.
Thank you, Mr. Cole. I really have nothing, so I'm going to pass it to Dr. Jones.
Just a couple of quick things. To Mr. Walter's comments, I just met with Karen and Larry today about that, so we're going to get a list together by the end of the year of going back through board docs of everything that we've talked about and kind of put that together and make sure that we have the information to make the workshop productive that we do on September. I believe it's the 25th is what we scheduled it on. And of course, if the board has other ideas that you want us to investigate or that you want to discuss, just pass those along to us. The second thing that I had was that we have testing has started for end of the year for career and technical education assessments. As AP testing is about done, and we're now in the middle of SOL testing. It's gone very well so far. I've heard some good reports today initially about the computer adaptive test for grades 3 through 8 that have reduced in some cases the length of the tests and made them shorter, which I think is a good thing for the kids, especially at that age group. But we are moving through for the next couple of weeks doing those assessments. And then the last thing that I had is, again, I just wanted to bring up the last workshop in June that I would not be able to be here because of a family commitment. I had thrown out a date via email, and I know that it was a conflict for one board member, but I didn't know whether we wanted to discuss that further and look at an additional date or just leave it where it is and know that I wouldn't be here on that day.
What was the date? The original date is the 24th.
I think it was the
28th.
I thought he wanted to propose the 23rd, which is a Thursday.
What I proposed is that we meet prior to the
Oh, yeah.
Chasing the Dragon event that we're hosting for, and I know that, I believe Ms. Emil had a family commitment, she couldn't be there on that day.
That's correct.
So, I don't know if that whole week is out or if there's anything else. And again, that last meeting is a brief one. You know, we can get most of the work done in the first meeting, but we do need to do financial records and closing out the year financially. That is the biggest thing that has to be done on that date.
Joe, is that date available for you?
My preference would be not to do it on the 23rd. I have an existing commitment date.
So does any date that week work for you?
I think every other date that week works for me. That's the only night that I know that I have something going on.
Jim? All right, town hall meeting on Monday.
I don't have anything that week, so defer to everybody else.
Eric,
Do
is
we have
there,
any idea what will be on the agenda on the 28th? Is that available?
At this
The
point,
reason I ask is it something that we can handle in drafts and stuff? No, that's what I'm asking.
yes. I mean, I don't like to miss the meetings, but certainly it is. I think the main, there's the Title I and Title III applications are due July 1st, so if they're not done by the 14th, then those would need to be approved. Larry has some financial closeout of the year items usually at that meeting. Other than that, there's usually not much. It's usually a shorter meeting. So I'm fine with going forward with the 28th. I just wanted to see if there was a way we could do it in that week in between.
what about the 21st? I know you're fine, but I mean, you are our person, and I don't really like the idea that,
Especially with the finance piece.
and especially with Sandy so close to retirement. I mean, that is kind of a critical time, and I don't know. I would rather do it sometime that week before. If the 23rd isn't good, what about the Tuesday, 21st? Does that work for anybody?
Works for me.
Joe, the 21st that week is a Tuesday night?
I'm okay with the 21st.
I'm okay with the 21st.
Pretty sure I'm okay, I've got to check and see, I've got something on the calendar, I think I postponed, just need to make sure. Put it on 21st right now, and I'll skip the other phone.
No, I made these plans knowing that the meeting was on the 28th, so I made my flight reservations to return that morning, so I'd be here on time for the meeting on the 28th, and...
Are you gone all that week of the 20th?
Yeah,
Oh.
the 19th. So, I mean, can we do it the week before? I just,
We already have a meeting the week before.
do I have to know how to do this technology-wise from my end? Because I certainly won't have anyone there to help me do
You're
technology-wise.
busy, huh?
Oh, they're not going, this is, yeah, they're not going, but this is work, this is not a vacation.
You have designate if you would stick with the 28th, correct?
Sandy. It's Sandy's.
Or Larry could do it, he's my designee as well, since most of it's financial.
I mean, that might be the easiest.
Thought with that?
All right, we'll leave it at the 28th, Joe.
Okay.
And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Jones. That brings us to the close. Is there a motion to adjourn? Second? All in favor? All right, we're adjourned.